Since it's September and we're working on some Halloween projects, I thought a Halloween themed gnome would be fun for today. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy he is to make. Alright, here are all the parts for our Halloween gnome. And I've got them grouped on the pattern and on my work tile. I have them grouped by what goes with what. You'll find everything goes in sets of 3 this month except for the backing, which there are 4 of. That way it's a little stronger because this has to support our entire gnome. So we have our backing. We have 3 pumpkins. Now my Cricut always cuts at least some of them flat when I have little details. But usually I get at least one that has the detail, like this little dip at the bottom. These 2 got cut off straight. Don't worry about that, just make sure this one is on top. We have 3 hats, 3 beards. We have 3 left hands and 3 right hands. We have 6 of the shoes to make two shoes out of, and we have 3 noses. I'm not going to glue all of them together on camera. I'll glue some of them together while we talk about the pattern, where you get it, and all that stuff, and then I'll turn the camera off and finish gluing. So, the pattern is a free for you to use pattern. You can download it from my blog post, which is linked in the description box below this video. It's free for you to download. You will find a PDF pattern for hand cutting and a PNG file for your Cricut or your Silhouette or whatever electronic cutting machine you have. You'll also find a text file with the information for using the PNG. You can make as many of these little guys as you want. You can sell the little gnomes if you are so inclined. You can give them as gifts. You can do whatever you want with the gnomes. I just ask you to follow my rules and don't give away or sell my pattern. If someone you know wants the pattern, have them come to the blog post, have them come to the YouTube channel and look at the video, because the little bit that I get when you guys click on those things is all the compensation I'm getting for the hours that I spend designing these projects. I'd really like to keep giving them to you for free, but I need you guys to follow the rules. I cut these out of plain white medium weight cardstock, the kind that you would find in the craft store in a package. It's used mainly to make cards, do scrapbooking, that kind of stuff with. I like that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't have to have a huge collection of different colors of paper on hand because I paint each piece to the color that I want it to be. Also, I find that, number one, the paint colors tend to be somewhat more stable over time than the colors of paper. I've had more problems with paper fading than I have with the paints. Also, the layers of paper are disguised a little bit by having the paint over it. So those are a couple of the reasons we do that. So I'm using just a thick tacky glue and not very much of it. I've had bad luck in the past with glue sticks on things like that. I know a lot of people swear by glue sticks. I just don't like them very well. If you have a glue stick that you really like and you've had really good luck with it, go for it. Use that. Use whatever works best for you. I prefer tacky glue because I've had better long-lasting results from that. So I am going to finish gluing these parts together. I am going to put a weight on them so they don't curl up too badly until they're at least partially dry. And then once they are completely dry, I'm going to come back and we will be set up for doing the painting. Now be sure that your glue is completely dry before you move on to the painting step, because we are going to put these onto a piece of sticky tape, and I find that they do tear if they are still at all damp. So when these have dried completely, I will come back and we can move on to the next step. I'll see you then. All right, first I'm going to apologize because for some reason all afternoon today, every dog in the building I live in is howling and barking, and I can't figure out why. So I apologize for that in the background. It's not my dog. I don't have a dog. All of my glue has dried and I need to get this painted, so we're just going to ignore the dogs in the background. I have put a piece of tape, sticky side up, I've taped it down on the ends, and I've put my pieces on, all my pieces to my gnome on, and I've divided them up by color. Here are the two shoes or feet. They're going to be brown. I have the hat and body because they're going to be the same color this time. The beard, the pumpkin, and the nose and the hands because they will be the skin color that we're using. Well, we'll see if we do all of them on camera. I'm not sure. I'm going to get a little bit of brown. Oh, and I've got a piece of wax paper under here. This way I don't get my tray quite so dirty and I don't have to do quite as much cleaning, and I didn't really need anywhere near that much of the brown. And that brown is this burnt umber that I found in my stash one day. I wanted the shoes brown rather than black since his body is going to be black. Trying to work that down around the edges. I don't want the edges to stay white. And you'll notice I do have them kind of hanging off the tape each place because that makes it a little easier to get them off of the tape later. Now we're going to make the hat and the body in black. Let's see if I can get enough up in the lid. Now if I need to, I will do second coats on any that need it later once this coat dries. You do want to make sure you have that white edge painted though. And this is just a black craft paint. Oops, did not want to do that. Oh my gosh, they're quiet for 2 seconds. They've been barking like this for hours now. It's been like 2 or 3 hours of almost constant barking and howling and whining. I don't know why. All right, now I have the beard next, and the beard we're going to do with just a kind of a 2-color. We start with white. I'm going to coat the beard with white. Oh, that brush is very stiff. I must not have got that very clean last time. I will say that doing videos is probably the hardest thing I have ever done on my brushes because I have a really bad habit of not cleaning them. All right. Now, since I have all that brown over there, usually I use gray, but since I've got all this brown here, we're going to use brown on his beard. What I like to do is take a second color and then work it in. This gives his beard a little bit of movement. It makes it so it's not plain white. I saw that on a video of a gal that was painting a gnome that she had made for her real front porch, and I just thought it looked really cool. Now I have a pumpkin, in fact this is called pumpkin. Now once this paint dries, I am going to come back and use the same brown to coat just the stem of our pumpkin. And I'll probably do that. I'll probably do that on camera because we're going to also put a face on. We're going to make a jack-o'-lantern. So I suspect that this orange is going to need a second coat though. So if I remember correctly, this tends to be a little translucent. Now I looked for what I thought would be a good green for our skin tone. And I came up, I just said use spring green. Kind of wanted something a little more of a bluey green, but I didn't have anything quite the color I wanted. But we want our little hands and our nose to be in the green color. All right, I'm going to let this paint dry. Once it's dry, I will, like I said, evaluate off camera if I need to do a second coat on anything. Once everything is painted the way I want and completely dry, I'll come back. We'll add the face to the jack-o'-lantern and the stem, and we'll also start the assembly process. So I'll be back when that's done, when that's ready. All right, my paint is all dry, and I want to really quickly put a coat of matte Mod Podge on the pumpkin because we are going to be adding a face to him, a jack-o'-lantern face. And I like to put Mod Podge on before I do that And that's way too much. But just a little coat of matte Mod Podge. If the lighting's off, it's kind of late at night, but I wanted to get this on so it'll be dry in the morning. So, matte Mod Podge, and then when that's dry, we'll be able to sketch a face on and paint on our jack-o'-lantern face. So I'll be back when it's dry. All right, my Mod Podge has dried overnight. And now I like to do that so that I seal this paint. So if I make a mistake on this next step, I don't have to repaint it all. So I'm just going to kind of sketch out. I know I want a couple of triangles, and I'm just using a pencil for this. And I'm just going to kind of do a mouth. I'm not going to go very fancy on this. Feel free to do this however you want, depending on what your talent is. So now we're going to put some paint on here. First, I'm going to take some of the same brown paint I had earlier, and I'm going to use a very tiny brush, and I'm going to paint this pumpkin stem with the brown. I pulled my wax paper out because it was pretty messy by the time I got done last night. All right, there we go. That's all the painting the stem needs. And now I'm going to use my dotting tool and the black paint. I'm going to kind of shake my black paint up so that I've got paint up in the lid. I'm going to use the small end. And those lines I made are just a guide. But they just gave me a place to start. I find it's easier to get fine details with a dotting tool than I can with a paintbrush. And if you don't like what you get, because we sealed it with the matte Mod Podge, it could be all wiped off and you could start all over. So I'm going to get set up to start gluing. So I'm going to go clean my paintbrush, get this moved to the side, and I will be right back. All right, I've got my glue out with a toothpick, and let's get the pieces we're going to need. I pulled this up off my tray. The body, the feet, and the beard. Being careful not to smear the paint on the face of the jack-o'-lantern. All right. And then this can just be over to the side. That will keep all my pieces together. Now we're going to add these pieces on. If you have paint left, sticking off the sides, just use your nail or a small knife and trim it off. Now we're going to line this up so it's centered pretty well side to side, and the tip of the beard can go no lower than the bottom edge of the gnome body. Just like every month. I know I tell you the same things every month, but that's because new people tune in every time, so I want everybody to know all the information. And sometimes I do these steps all at once. Sometimes I change the order based on either what I'm doing with the gnome, how much time I have, all that stuff. Okay, when you're happy with where it is, you've got a few minutes where you can move it around. Don't worry about a little bit of glue squishing out, because we are going to be putting Mod Podge over this. So I'm going to put glue here, and I see my battery is attempting to die, so I'm going to finish this up really quickly, and I will go plug my camera in. So when this glue is set up enough that I can work, and my camera has decided to be charged, I will be back and we will go on to the next step. All right, that glue is set up, so now we're going to add the hat. And since the hat and the body are the same color, it's not as important to have it lined up as carefully as we do when they're different colors. Now, because of the way this is put on, it's only going to touch in two spaces. It's going to touch here at the bottom of the hat, and it's going to touch here. This area in between will not touch, so we don't need to put glue there. And I don't necessarily let this dry all the way between steps, but I do let it set up enough that I don't accidentally move pieces in between. Put it there. Line this up the way I want it. You do want to cover the top of the beard. And then we're going to add the nose. Now the nose was the piece that was used to cut the little divot out of the bottom of the hat pattern, so it should fit in pretty well. Come on. It's sticking to my fingers, so that's always fun. Come on, cooperate with me. Cooperate with me. There we go. All right, we can go ahead and add the pumpkin at the same time. So we're going to put the jack-o'-lantern right there. And I think I'll go ahead and add the hands now too. That way I can have this glue drying. And then we've got the two hands. Now remember, there is a little thumb that goes up with the fingers pointed to the middle of the body. Ah! It was sticking to me really badly today. All right. And you can place your hands on your gnome anywhere you like. It's up to you. And now this glue does need to dry, because if there's any that has oozed out, it needs to be dried completely so that it's nice and clear before we add the Mod Podge coating on over it, because if it is still cloudy and we Mod Podge over it, we run the risk that it will stay cloudy. So I'm going to let this glue dry, and when this is completely dry, I'll come back and we'll add our coat of Mod Podge. All right, our glue is completely dry and it is clear. So I have some satin Mod Podge. And since everything is dry, and I know it's dry, I'm going to dip in. And because I'm going to use such a small amount, I will probably not have to dip back in. Now off camera, I did do a coat, I only need a little tiny bit more. I did a coat of the same Mod Podge on the back, because I do like to seal the backs, and at that point in time I went around all the edges. So I am going to let this Mod Podge dry. When it's all dry, I'll meet you at the dollhouse and we'll see how this looks. See you there. All right, I've moved our little gnome friend onto the front porch of the dollhouse, and I think next to the rest of our Halloween stuff, he looks really cute. I hope you enjoyed today's project. Be sure and hop over to the blog post for more photos, more information, and as well as the link to the free downloadable pattern so you can make your own gnome. If you enjoyed the video, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What kinds of things would you like to see in future videos? If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, I encourage you hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.